distinguished dignitaries on the dais and my most honored friends in the audience. I really miss not being able to come to Delhi to attend this conference because of a bad back. But I am really thankful to Mr. Raina for allowing me to interact with you on this occasion. I would, in the next 10 minutes that I am with you, like to flag some issues of importance to the distillery sector. The prime issue, of course, is OTC, or the one-time controlled land application and pre-sown land application, which is very dear to me and which is very important to your industry also. You would be knowing probably that the ministry is contemplating prescribing standards for distillery effluents, and the proposed standards are not allowing OTCLA or pre-sown land application. Raina Sahab has represented to the ministry on this behalf, and I feel that there is a need to judiciously follow up this effort and put in all efforts, all that we have should be put in towards this, so that we at least we can make our views known to the government and request them to allow us to do a study to take up OTCLA. We would also like to take up with the Ministry of Agriculture also, so that because when we are going to use it as a manure, I think the Ministry of Agriculture's consent is also very important. The ministry has probably not yet been able to find any shortcomings technically in the concept of one-time controlled land application. Management is a problem, and I was surprised to go through the charter that the ministry has published recently, where all the blame on OTCLA not being a successful operation has been put on industry, and I think there is ample ground for us to make a representation to the Government of India, and I would request Mr. Raina to take this up with the government. I hope most of us have gone through the charter. I really do not know, but there is a new charter for distilleries for incineration process, and this charter of course needs to be reviewed. I really do not know if AIDA has reviewed it or if any of the industry has reviewed it, but there is a very strong case for a review of this charter. The charter discredits OTCLA and fertilization. It says that they are not good technologies and that they have failed. But again, here in the charter, within the charter, about 4 or 5 pages in the charter, they have discussed this issue of one-time control land application and fertilization, and they have never at any place said that the technology is bad. They've only said that the industry has not complied with the protocol. So we have to, rather than be discredited for not following the protocol, we of course like to represent to the government again. And this charter also does not present any technical flaw in the OTCLA. Some statements in the charter are not representative of the protocol. One of them I remember, and that is that it says that the industry has not followed two-stage aeration after biomethanation for the one-time controlled land application. The protocol has never said that two-stage it has never said that two-stage aeration should be followed after biomethanation. The protocol has said that biomethanated spent wash with a BOD of 7,000 can be used for. So these are some statements in the charter which need to be reviewed and represented against. The charter is also going to suggest new standards, like for disposal of spent wash, it says 6 to 8 kl per kl. For fresh water consumption, it would restrict to 8 to 10 kl per kl of alcohol, and it also says that more than 80% of water recovery has to be done. The spent wash storage has to be restricted to 30 days with 40% volume by volume and 30% solids reduction. So if there are any issues in this charter that need to be taken up to the government, kindly do it. Mr. Raina, I would suggest that may also like to take this up with the government. This is very important. The third issue which I would like to flag is the order dated 19th of January 2023, which is regarding the recovery of FCO grade fertilizers. Sir, the manufacturing operation is not very clear, but one thing is very clear, that you have enormous amounts of sludges arising out of the process, and you have spent liquors remaining after the process. Now, for the solids, for the sludges, the ministry has said that, the CPCB rather has said that the sludges can be used as cattle feed if certified. Now, if certified is a very dangerous statement. Supposing supposing the sludge is not certified to be used as cattle feed, then what do we do? Enormous quantities of sludge. So this is one thing which the ministry, which the CSM, the Central Salt Marine Research Institute, who has come up with this technology, they may have to think, if it is not certified, what do we do? Then it also says that the spent liquors after recovery of potash and salts should be used as a binder for animal feed, if suitable. Again, it does not say whether it is suitable or not. It only says if it is found suitable, it should be used as a binder, and otherwise it should be incinerated. This is again a very carbon negative technology, so this needs to be reviewed. Land application, they have specifically said that it should not be considered. Why would land application for spent liquors after potash recovery not be a viable option? Has to be examined. It has to be examined, and because we really do not want to lose the irrigation and the micro and the nutrient potential of the waste. There is a need for a cost-benefit analysis. They say there is a plant at Walchand Nagar. They have said for a 60 KLD distillery, the cost is about 25 to 30 crores. So this has to be seen how viable this technology is. The life cycle analysis and greenhouse potential has to also be with. I'll come to it later. With India pledging to be a zero emission country by 2070, there is a need to examine this. So AIDA, I believe, again has, I'm sure AIDA has represented against this potash to the government, and we'll have to take it up. My only request is that wherever AIDA has made a representation to the government, we should really put all our efforts to take it up and see it through. Then there's another very good notification of the ministry, that is the fertilizer, that is the fertilizer control order of 2021, which recognizes a separate class of fertilizers, that is a biostimulant. And a biostimulant has been designed, it's a very sustainable technology, and it has been defined as a substance or microorganism or a combination of both, whose primary function when applied to plants, seeds or rhizosphere is to stimulate physiological processes in plants and to enhance its nutrient uptake, growth, yield, nutrition, efficiencies, crop quality and tolerance to stress. Biostimulant is a substance or a microorganism or both which is beneficial to the plant. Spent wash has all these characteristics. I would not like to reiterate here the advantages of spent wash and the nutrient content of spent wash and the money that spent wash can provide to farmers, but spent wash can be used as a fertilizer. We have again, on behalf of you, on your behalf, AIDA has submitted a request to the Ministry of Environment, to the Ministry of Agriculture to consider it as a biostimulant. I believe the UPSMA has also made a representation. So what my request is that kindly take all these representations that we have made to its final end and make them successful. Make us heard actually. Let them hear us, let them listen to us. Decision is always with the regulators, so let them take a decision on their own. But at least the points that Raina Sahib has raised in all these issues has to be taken carefully. There is one more aspect which I'd like to flag today, and that is of environmental audit. The Environmental Protection Rules of 2015 prescribe the submission of an environmental statement annually. This environmental statement is a comparison of your regulatory compliance and your resource utilization over time. पिछले साल आपने क्या what you spent last year, how much BOD you generated last year, how much resources you used last year, and how much of them are you using this year. So this is one exercise that is being done by the ministry since long. But the only drawback with this technology, this scheme, is that the only drawback with this scheme is that because it is regulatory, it requires compliance. Therefore, it is a very negative. So, what I wanted to request you is that the linking with regulation is a very big disincentive. The moment we produce a report and submit it to the Pollution Control Board, it loses its function because it is a disincentive. This report is ideally a mirror that we are seeing, a mirror that the industry is seeing, and how well or how bad it has performed. I think there should be at least one document which is an internal document of the industry and which has to be seen by the highest level of managers in the industry, so that they take corrective action. It is very important that you see the mirror and improve, and it will help you in your sustainability reporting also. Sustainability reporting, you will appreciate, has become compulsory since 2023, and basically the environmental performance is one of the aspects of sustainability reporting. Then India has committed, I already discussed with you, India has committed to achieving a net zero emission by 2070. Net zero basically does not mean that you have a zero emission. It means that it is the balance between the greenhouse gases you produce and the greenhouse gases you remove. So it says, when it says that net zero, that means the amount of greenhouse gases you produce should be less than the amount of greenhouse gases you remove from the environment. So now industry, because of this commitment, you will have to provide for increased energy efficiency, you will have to provide for fuel substitution, you will have to provide for solar energy, you will have to provide for green hydrogen and carbon capture, utilization and storage. Carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies. This is how 2070 would look like. So we have to really shift our thought process towards this end. We have to see how we have to become carbon neutral. The greenhouse gases emissions for distilleries are factored and are provided by the Ministry of Environment and Forest and the IPCC. So if you want to know how much of greenhouse gas your distillery is emitting, you can refer to these tables. There's another issue very important, and that is compensation and penalty. As per the pollution control laws and the Ministry and the NEP Act, the pollution control boards and the ministries are really not, as per the laws, they are not empowered to impose any penalty. The penalty can only be imposed by the courts if on an application made by these organizations. So moto, the board cannot issue a penalty. It can only move an application to the court, asking the court to. So this thing has to be understood. Second is there is a NGT order which says that penalty should be levied by the Central Pollution Control Board. Now this NGT order is very clear. It says that the Central Pollution Control Board will take penal action against those industries which are responsible for setting up effluent treatment plants, but which have not set up the desired effluent treatment. So the word used is penal action. Penal does not use penalty. Penal action is provided under Section 44 of the Water and then subsequently the Air Act, and also Section 15 of the EP Act. Penal action means that you have to be convicted first and then only penalty can be imposed. So directly the board cannot do it. Then there is one more issue, that there is a CPCB guideline. There is a CPCB guideline on the basis of which penalty has been imposed. That has also to be examined by the by AIDA, and any suggestions that are required may be given to the ministry. Then one very important issue that comes to me is that the NGT Act makes a provision of penalty. NGT Act makes a provision of compensation. Both penalty is for non-compliance and compensation is for damage caused. So when you are imposing penalty, you have to do as per the NGT Act, and when you are imposing compensation, then again it has to be as per the NGT Act after making a damage assessment. Most of the times when a compensation is levied, there is no damage assessment, so you have to be very sure that a damage assessment is performed by the regulator before a compensation is imposed. One thing which normally our regulators do not pay importance to is probably the NGT Act has made a very specific reference that if a particular pollution has been caused by multiple sources, then the quantum of damage should be assessed and the compensation apportioned on the quantum of pollution being caused by each unit. Supposing there is a distillery and there is a sugar mill, distillery discharging 50,000 BOD, sugar is discharging 500 BOD, and the river is being polluted, both will not be imposed a penalty of 10 crores of rupees each. It should be apportioned on the basis of the pollution being caused. This is there. And now, before I finish, the last issue that is very important is that you would appreciate that the pollution control laws and the EP Act, they put a responsibility on every person who is responsible for running of the industry and put a liability towards towards pollution control. Unless of course if that person proves that I have taken due diligence or I did not know, I was not informed of the malfunction. So what is very important is that all your managers, right from top to bottom, should exercise due diligence. There should be a delegation. There should be a delegation of responsibilities. You should read your clearances. You should read your permissions very clearly. If you are not able to comply with any of the conditions, kindly make a representation to the Pollution Control Board or to the Ministry as an appeal, or to the NGT, appeal to them. Get the conditions, but once your conditions are finalized, kindly see to it that you comply with those conditions with due diligence, and delegate. Your subordinate should be able to inform you what is wrong. Your higher up should be able to give you proper support to do what is right. So this should be there. You delegate your responsibilities. You delegate your responsibilities to your vendors also. Many a times what happens is that during the construction phase or the operation phase, you are subletting your activities, and when you are subletting your activity, the responsibility of compliance gets on the person to do it. So, for example, there is a hot mix plant. The hot mix plant is owned by a private person. So the emissions of the hot mix plant should not be your responsibility. So you would tell your vendor also that look at, these are the conditions that you have to comply, environmental conditions, and do it. So kindly delegate your responsibility, and the best would be that you have a group of officers, you have a set of conditions, you divide your conditions into various groups. Each officer gets one group of conditions which it monitors throughout the year and sends a report. With this, I would like now to thank Mr. Raina again for having been with for having given me this opportunity. I really miss being there. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Thank you.